Hi guys, it's Mark Zickrey, Mr. Sci-Fi, also Mark Zickrey of Space Command, walking at night. Ooh, creepy, creepy. I wanted to talk about the season finale of season 4 of For All Mankind while I still was ambulatory. So it was a terrific ending, I thought. Very skilled. You know, so many of these shows, they don't end their seasons well. The characters don't come together artistically. There's just so many flaws. And whereas I disagree with certain bits and pieces of this season of the show, I thought the ending was really, really skillful and brought a lot of characters together. And, there's always a question with any showrunner, the executive producer running the show, the writer, producer running the show, what is their worldview of humanity? What is their philosophy of life? And for many of these guys, the philosophy is, life is out to screw you. You can't win no matter what you do. On and on and on. And this, of course, is a philosophy I deeply disagree with. And so as a result, what they do is no matter how much you like the characters end up badly. And that's really a shame. And you feel often betrayed by the creatives involved in the show because, who wants to watch people that you like and care for, end up badly? But fortunately, Ron Moore and the other creative souls on For All Mankind, their philosophy is, no, some characters will end up badly, but most will end up okay. They'll come together. And this was a similar aesthetic on Battlestar Galactica, as dark as that show was. And of course, on Star Trek The Next Generation, it had a positive outlook and treated its characters with respect, and they turned out okay. So this episode basically brought all the threads of this season to fruition, and that was really terrific. I also, by the way, love shows that don't end on cliffhangers, where you have to wait a year before seeing how the story turns out, if at all, if they renew it. I like where they tie it up at the end. And so this episode, the season had been about how we would get to a point in man's space exploration where the next generation comes in, the working stiffs, the mechanics, the guys who make things go, and the basic conflict between those who run things and the astronauts who are kind of white-collar heroes versus the blue-collar guys who are just there working a job. And I thought that was very skillful in presenting sort of the black market aspect of it, and sort of the hole-in-the-wall, literally, bar where you could, basically, blow off some steam, etc. And it dealt with the Russians, and it had the alternative history where, because the Russians landed on the moon, etc., the Soviet Union continued. And Gorbachev was overthrown, and a new regime came in that was even more brutal and repressive. And Margot, of course, saved the life of the Russian scientist Sergei, who, he's sort of living in the witness protection program here in America while she's basically, living a very empty life in Russia. And so that was all great and interesting. And then she comes back to the States under the heavy gaze of the KGB and Roscosmos. But she and Sergei are hoping to be able to get away and live their ideal life, which of course is fated not to be. And meantime, various characters are trying to steal the asteroid that's intended for Earth, so it'll go into Mars orbit and allow Mars to function as its own, essentially its own sovereignty and its own economy. And it's all very, very interesting. The actress who played Margot was very, very good. The age makeup was excellent, and her acting, playing an aged character, was excellent. The stiffness, the little limp, the carpal tunnel, none of it overstated. Just very subtle, very, very good. She'd really thought it out and worked it out with the other creators on the show. I felt, the character who played Ed, his makeup, as I said before, was too much. It was like a high school play. I think it could have been much more restrained, and I think his acting, playing old, again, was extreme. And he was one of the characters that they really didn't give much range to this year, and I'm sad about that because he's a character we followed from season to season, and I wish he weren't so rigid and such an asshole, basically. But I understand that they're following that whole notion of sort of right-wing, hotshot American astronauts of that first generation where they're, my way or the highway kind of guys. And then they have Dev, who's sort of stand-in for Elon Musk, the self-made billionaire. And but in the end, as extreme as it gets, the characters come back together, and there's a connection and a link. And even if they've been disagreeing with each other and fighting with each other throughout the season, they come together to be supportive of each other and helpful to each other. And Margot, essentially, even though she has suffers a big loss, losing Sergei, she wins against this terrible KGB woman who's been responsible for so much anguish in her life, and that character who is essentially evil has her comeuppance. And so Margot, even though she's taken off by the FBI under arrest, you know that she's triumphed, and that's great, and the characters love her and care about her again. And you really feel that most of the characters do come to a place. Even Ed, his daughter, takes his hand, and he, takes the head of the base, her hand. I can't remember the character's name, the black actress who's very, very good. But again, they had her be an extremely bad manager of that facility, not listening to all of her people, not listening to the below decks guys as to their grievances, essentially being rigid to a point where it push things to extremes. Very unfortunate. But at the end, though, Ed is holding her hand, willing her to survive. It was emotionally a very satisfying end for many, many, many of the characters, and it's very interesting to see where it's going to go next year, because will they have Mars as a sovereign realm, or what will happen? Because again, telling Earth and America and Russia that they can't have that asteroid, that's going to be them's fighting words. So we'll see where that goes. But it's endlessly interesting. And this is a perfect example of a show where you care about the people, you care about the characters. The casting is very good, the directing, the acting, the writing, very, very strong. And it coheres. It tells a story. And so I'll be very interested to see where they go next season. Ron Moore is really one of the great, brilliant science fiction creators / showrunners of this televised medium, and so that's my check-in for now, and much more to come in the near future. So thanks everybody, and if you haven't checked out For All Mankind, it's well worth it. And it's moved beyond being just sort of this alternate history story. I mean, now basically it's pointing toward where we might go, where we might end up in our manned exploration of space. But it's a terrific show, and well worth your time, and a credit to everyone who's connected with it. That's it for now. Talk soon. Bye, guys.